Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know I've gone live. And in the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And we've got this word wonder that we're tackling this week. And I thought I would come at it in a different perspective, right? Because we were kind of looking at it as wonder, right? We were looking at the magic of it all, the adventure of it all, right? And today I thought maybe we would look at it just a little bit differently in that wonder. I wonder. I'm online quite a bit, and in the lessons that I take them from people who do this for a living, where they'll pick a topic and they'll chew on it, they'll tear it apart, they'll put it back to, like truly experts in these fields. Yesterday, I was watching it was this morning. I was watching an interview with Lex Fridman, and he was talking to this gentleman. I think I don't know, he was some kind of scientist. And I was staying in the conversation, not having a conversation, but I was following the conversation as a spectator, as a student, and I was getting it. Now, obviously, the terminologies and the words that they use, right? I kind of gotta feel my way in the way they express the words sometimes. Sometimes those words have come across my path so that I'm able, I don't know, I didn't have a problem following the conversation. I enjoyed it very much, but I did wonder, like, Cindy, what are you doing sitting in these conversations? These guys are so smart. Like, they throw a word out there like Bob, and it's just like so complicated. Like, you pretty much have to sit here with a dictionary, right? But like I said, I was following the conversations really good. So it makes me wonder, right? It makes me wonder, why is that, right? Because you would never, I don't think, have me sit in on those heavy conversations. These are probably colleagues or people at least who have these really intense interest in these fields of science, right? Science was never my big forte. Never was. I remember my grade 10 science teacher. Oh my goodness. Cindy Jean, come to me. He was a big Jamaican man, right? Very intimidating, very sweet, but very stern and very, very smart in what he was trying to teach us. Like I said, science was not my forte, but I mean, it was my class, so I had to be there. Right, of course. I probably drove him a little bit batty, and I hope, in doing that, he had a little bit of compassion because he did like me. He did like me, but I couldn't follow in class again in that hypervigilance of my own perceived safety. Because lots of times I could have jumped up and taken care of business myself, but my dynamic upbringing, and right, I was taught to turn the other cheek, and I had to eat a lot of what was going on in school. And being an obese child in that, well, I was going to say that school, but I was under the impression that I was an obese child ever since I started school. Seems it wasn't the case, looking back on pictures and looking at it in the perspective of, right, as an adult rather than that perspective as a child, listening to your mother tell you how fat you are and having the kids pick on you, and but not thinking like it was just different reasons that they were picking on me, not necessarily that I was obese. that was the dish my mother was serving me, right? But I had nicknames like, second hander, and just little names that hurt, right? Little names that in my self-conscious, in my own limiting beliefs, I took it very, very personally, right? And I took it hard. I was right, maybe, you know, and I get it. I do get it because I was married to the military. Uh, my husband was a Patricia with the Second Battalion, and here in Winnipeg, and he came home and he had post traumatic stress disorder. I didn't know until after we had already had our problems and split and everything. But, you know, there were lots of people who struggle with post traumatic stress disorder. We called it shell shock, right? And they do these tours. My husband did tours in Croatia. And, everybody dealt with that stress differently, had a different experience. And some people came back and they weren't even bothered by it. And some people, they got post traumatic stress disorder and just maybe a few days home, around the people they loved, they would start to come out of it right away. But being in the military, you're taught, well, you're not even taught, but it's in your own perception that you got to be tough. You don't show your weakness. And my husband kept his problems to himself for well, a couple of years anyway, because we were already separated before I even found out that he did have some problems. So I'm swaying away from the branch a little bit, because we are talking, not on this subject of my husband, right? But we are talking about that wonder, right? But, I look back on these relationships, and I look back on these experiences and these conversations and these adventures. And, it does make me wonder, because some of it seems so fantastical, right? Just seems just so out there, that how could it be true, right? But being the evidence in our own life, and then growing up as adults and being able to put ourselves in those same shoes as a child, right? But with an adult mentality. So we're kind of able to put ourselves in my mother's shoes. That's why I was able to work through a lot of these difficulties I had. Not saying that I was perfect in that, right? But to be able to even understand what happened with our relationship, and maybe, why we had that disconnect, which seemed right from the very beginning. But that's wonder, right? I wonder. And you have that option, each one of us, to just brush it off as something from the past, right? I'm not even gonna deal. That's from my history, right? But remember what I said, I was able to understand the perspective of my mother, right? So that I'm not going through, right, a baby boomer with these negative feelings, and these feelings of hate and disappointment, and even my own self-loathing, that all stemmed from that relationship. And then, suck on that like a victim, always pointing at the devil, right? Always pointing at the devil, and not owning up possibly to my part in that, or at the very least understand where it was coming from, right? And that all comes from wonder, because I didn't have to go back, right? That is my history. Those are painful moments in my life, right? But those painful moments are just as magnificent in their gifts, as, right, we're so eager to look out at those beautiful moments that we have in our lives, all those beautiful loving moments that I had with my husband, or with my sisters, or with my father, or with my friends, or just even with myself, right? We can delve into that, but the moment we have to step our feet into somebody else's shoes who hurt us so bad, that right? Sometimes that's what we're holding in. Just even that thought of it, you can feel it in your chest and that tension and stuff that, right? And you want to just brush that off. Like, even me, do I want to brush that off? Or would I just like to resolve it now and just move on with my life? Right? I would like to resolve it, but I didn't realize in resolving it that, right, that really I would truly forgive. But you have to, once you understand, you have to forgive. If the only thing you have to forgive is that misperception that you had, right? Because you're able to see what really happened. And we, in our fears, in our stresses, in our hypervigilance, right, in our minds, right, in our bodies, we can work ourselves up into a frenzy over nothing, right? I'm not somebody who has a lot of anxiety in my system. I do have those things that can trigger me into moments, but because I know they trigger me, I have to use those lessons that I have, right? And those lessons only came into effect because of my own wondering, my own questioning, right? Right? Knowing that if I'm going to be looking back there, right? The cushier the fall, the better. And it's not even necessarily a fall, is it? Because the past in the present, it really can't surface in any way unless you allow it to, right? But again, sometimes we don't have that control because of that post traumatic stress disorder, that complex post traumatic stress disorder, which just seems so odd and so strange. And right. And again, because we don't want to show that weakness, we suck it in. Right. Nobody even knows that we have a problem. Right. My family doctor caught on pretty fast, but he would always say, "Cindy, go for a walk. Cindy, meditate." And I'm not a meditator, but I've been trying to absorb the idea that I have to take more moments for myself, especially when I'm not connecting with Mother Nature and going for my evening walks. Those are my moments. Those are my meditations, right? So I have to make space for them in my day to day in contemplation. I tried to do it a little bit yesterday by going just to lay down and just to be in my thoughts with nothing else. And right. But we practice, we're playing with it now, right? And it's just a matter of getting started and playing with it and feeling it out that, right, it'll get easier for me. And that's that idea. And that just comes from the wonder, right? Wonder what so and so's up to. Well, let's go see, right? And even actually, I was just in my history here. Let's go down here. I Google something almost every single day. I would have to say every day, but let's see. Maybe I did it. Well, there's a Google. Um, I Googled something that I was checking out the value when I was at work, so that doesn't count. Here's one. I was wondering, I have some perfume here that I got at work, right? And it was really nice. I really love the smell, but I love it so much. It has a musky smell. I thought, well, maybe this is a men's cologne. So I actually Googled the name of the perfume, which is Narciso, right? Fragrance, just a beautiful perfume. And it actually was a lady's perfume. So I Googled that. Um, I Googled what happened to Maria Carey's voice because everybody talks about how those high notes that she used to be able to do that she's not able to do anymore had something to do with her nodules. So I Googled. So that was pretty good in 24 hours. And I'm sure there's another one there, but because I'm with you, I don't want to, right, delve into something on my PC. But just as an example, right? Just out of curiosity, right? Just out of curiosity, that I just Googled something. And I probably Googled something, a word, just to get a better feel of something that I'm trying to understand in that Lex Fridman video that I watched this morning, right? And that was 3 hours. I'm not sure if I even finished it. I think I might have. It was interesting, but again, I wondered, how is it possible that I could have stayed in that conversation? And how is it I kind of sort of enjoyed it? Because I must have enjoyed it, that I stayed for the whole video, or I'm going to say pretty much I stayed for the whole, I'm not going to go into it because it'll track. It'll tell me, it'll start where I left off if I didn't do it. And it'll probably be suggested to me by YouTube, right? When I'm done my live today and I decide to take a bedtime lesson. I do a lot of lessons. I got a lot of water treading to do. But I wanted to say, what a really good perspective to look at it in a little bit different, because we've been looking at wonder, as in magical, as in spectacular, as in, right? But we should look at it like, I wonder because when I'm online and I'm hanging with my peers, when I'm hanging with Lex Fridman, and he's a new one for me. I used to just pop in every once in a while, but it just seems in the past couple of weeks I've been watching him a little bit more, right? Because these are the type of people, these are the light and the darknesses that I talk about. These people that show up and they share their knowledge and they share their hearts, and right, and it's up to us in our own choice whether to take the lessons. It's whether to sit down and listen for 3 hours, right, that's up to us, right? But the same thing, they could be doing something else with their lives, because I'm sure they certainly don't need the money, because right, they're scientists. I'm sure they make gazillions of money, and I'm sure they're on the talk circuits too, right? And Lex Fridman obviously has a very, very popular podcast online, so I'm sure he's doing quite well for himself. So they don't have to share, right? But they do, and I find that admirable. And because I walked into these entrepreneurs, right? And because I took it up as an interest, because I am on YouTube, right? I have that voice. I have that capability, right? And that purpose comes from my pain. And so, right, showing up here fresh like a loaf of bread, it's in sharing those lessons. And it's not just sharing the difficult lessons, it's sharing the magnificence, it's sharing my adventures, it's sharing other thought leaders, right? It's kind of including, it's very inclusive into this community, because they're just sharing, right? And like I said, it's up to us in our own curiosity, right? When we wonder, oh, I wonder, what are they talking about? Who is this Lex Fridman, eh? What did happen to Mariah Carey's voice, right? That we learn, because again, like we've been talking the past couple of days, that wonder, that word wonder, is full of lessons, right? It's full of lessons, but it's in our choices, because we can skip class, right? We can turn the other cheek, we can zone out, we can say, oh my goodness, they're too smarty pants for us. What are you doing, Cindy? Get out of there. Go watch a metal detecting video or bottle digging video or something, right? But it was in my choice that I said, no, let's sit here, let's take it in. And if it's not interesting, I can walk out and watch something else at any moment. And I was compelled to watch the entire video, and not only just that interview, like, quite a few interviews in the past couple of weeks. But like I said, I have to wonder, right? I have to wonder. And so I've been stewing the wonder over in my head. And what I came up with was, well, Cindy, you want to help the light in the darkness. This is the light in the darkness, the ones who overstepping themselves and overcoming themselves to bring their magnificence to the table for other people to learn from, right? When they could be laying on the beach drinking pina coladas, right? Maybe they got stage fright. Maybe they don't like doing interviews. Maybe they don't like showing up every single day, but they do it, right? And they do that. And so, I wondered about that, right? And that's because they're the light in the darkness. They are just the type of people that I would like to help. And if these are the type of people that I would like to help, and not just people that I would like to help, but these are thought leaders, right? These are people who struggle quite a bit in their own personal lives in order to show up, right? And so they're just my kind of people. And so what better way to practice my craft? And even though I'm not joining in on the conversation, right? I'm I'm understanding the conversation. I'm understanding it quite well, right? But maybe that's the idea, is to spend some time, right, with these gentlemen, these women, right, that work so hard, right, that give so much, that maybe there's something that's not quite working in their lives, right? Because they are doing this extra. Or maybe they don't have that extra for themselves because they're, right, highly sensitives and empaths. They're giving everything they have away so that there's nothing left for themselves. That's probably more often or not the case, right? And yeah, so I thought maybe, that would be a good way, right? To end, right? Tomorrow's our last chance to talk about this word. Um, and I thought, well, if we look at wonder in the aspect of, I wonder, that's curious, right? Paying attention, right? Because lots of times the answers are always right in front of us. They're coming across their paths, they're in our conversations, and just not the things that can help us in our day to day, but better yet, those opportunities that give us a chance to move ourselves forward. So I'm sitting in on conversations, and I suspect it will help me move forward in a way that I will better understand the people that I would like to help. But that idea, right, might not have come to me unless I wondered at the curiosity as to, Cindy, what are you doing sitting in on these conversations? How come you're sitting with these experts, these geniuses, right? With the fancy words and everything, right? It's because, well, that's my target audience, right? That's my customer, and maybe it's not in this moment, right? But it will be by my own choice, right? By my own choice, if I choose to, right? As long as I feel that curiosity, right? I still have that wonder. And even in that wonder of a child's eye, like, that fun, that excitement, right? At tearing something apart and putting it back together, right? Okay, you guys, one more day, and yeah, we'll be done with this word wonder. We've had some big words that have been serving me well in the moment, right? And I know it's because they have been deep for me. I have to admit, like, I'm getting a lot out of these words because I'm in the word, right? I'm either thinking what I could talk about when I come live, right? And I'm stewing on the topic. And plus, because I understand that there's a little bit of sweet sequencing going on, that I could see that because I'm thinking about it, that wonder is coming into my life, right? That curiosity is coming into my life, that forgiveness is coming into my life. And any one of those 17 words that we've done so far, right? We're going to do 54. We're not even close to being done. But I suspect that I will be changed every step along the way, right? Because I show up fresh like a loaf of bread, right? Don't suspect that everybody will delve into it as deep, right? And it's not even that I'm doing it that deep, but I'm taking the lessons myself. I'm showing up here right after my life, right? I'm gonna have my cup of coffee. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna take in my lesson because I know I need that lesson just as much as anybody else. And I wouldn't have known that unless I was curious, right? Yeah, that wonder. Yeah. Curiosity killed the cat. But you know what? That wonder, I think when it comes to evolution, I think that's what saved our butts 100%, right? That curiosity. What's just over the next mountainside, right? Is it a herd of mammoth, right? Is it palm trees and coconuts, right? And it keeps you going, right? You never give up. You keep on going. You show up fresh like a loaf of bread whenever possible, right? Not everybody's doing what I'm doing, and not everybody would want to, right? But maybe you might want to check out a Lex Fridman interview. They're pretty good. You might surprise yourself and really enjoy them. Yeah, I am. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.